Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi, and here I like to talk about luxury beauty. Today we are talking about Bobbi Brown. We have a couple of things to discuss. We have the new Luxe Eye and Cheek palette for holiday 2022, and part of the permanent line, we have the new Luxe lipsticks. I picked up 5 of the shades. I think the swatches are very off online. The colors really don't look anything like what they do in real life. So definitely check them out in store. Check out my swatches here today. But yes, I was a little bit surprised by some of the shades. It was hard to pick online, and then some of them weren't exactly what I expected. So we'll be going through doing swatches of those, talking about the formulas. Let's start with this holiday palette. So this is the Luxe Eye and Cheek palette. You can see you've got this beautiful 3-dimensional holographic pattern on here. I think this is stunning. And this is the Luxe formula. We have a magnetic closure. So the Luxe formula from Bobbi Brown is kind of like their higher line. And you do have a mirror here. It had a sticker on there. And this is the actual palette. Notice the center shade here is a bit of a duochrome, a gold pink. I have to say it's a lot more sparkly than I thought it was going to be. And then the formulas of these shadows here are in the Luxe finish. So we have a few shades that are not new. So let's go ahead and start by swatching these. All right, so we're gonna start over here on the left side of the palette, going straight down. And we do have some permanent shades here from the Luxe line. And first up, we have Petal Plush, which is a metallic shadow. And you can see this is kind of a pumpkin / rusty orange. It's a little bit brighter than a true rusty orange, but there is a little bit of pink in here. You can see a touch of pink. Then we have the always classic Moonstone, which is a glitter or sparkle shadow. And then this is a matte in Rose Flush. And I have to say, I really like the Luxe formula from Bobbi Brown. These finishes do feel different on the eyes. I feel like her mattes in the Luxe line, they feel like they're firm in the pan, but yet they really give you a lot of payoff. They are great for patting color on. And let's then switch over to this side. We'll do the eyes first. So going top to bottom again. And this time we have Honey Light, which is another metallic. You can see this is going to be pretty much a yellow gold, but it's got a little bit of it's not a bright yellow. It's got a little bit of an antique yellow look into it. We have Melting Point, which is another metallic, and then another matte in Mulberry. So these are the eyeshadows. I'm actually going to put the highlighter on my hand so we have plenty of space for swatching comparisons. This here is called Incandescent Glow, and that's actually the name of this palette as well. There is another one coming out called, I think it's called Copper. I'll have to double check that. And look at this highlight. So honestly, it feels like glitter. So it's very finely milled. I don't feel necessarily glitter particles, but you know, a lot of times you'll have a shimmery highlighter and it feels kind of like you have a base of product and then shimmer. No, this really feels more like sparkle. It's a lot, but I have found a way that I like to use it. So let's talk a little bit about this palette while I show you today's look featuring this palette. We're going to start off with the eyeshadows. So these are the Luxe eyeshadows. We have 1.1 grams for each of the shadows. And everything in this palette is made in Italy. The Luxe line for Bobbi Brown is made in Italy, whereas most of her other cosmetics are made in the US. I have to say, I think the formulas of these shadows are fantastic. I am not super familiar with, all of Bobbi Brown's Luxe shades. I'm not sure if all of these have been around at one point, but I do know at least a few of these are part of the permanent line, like Moonstone and Melting Point. So, you know, I do have a little bit of familiarity with a few of the shades. I have to say, I do really like the formula. I like how the different finishes are, first of all, they're always labeled on the package, but secondly, they are different yet perform beautifully with each other. So I really do like those. Now, the color story for this, to say, I think everything looks a bit warmer on the eye than I was anticipating. For example, you know, melting point kind of looks more like a soft peach in the pan, but it's definitely much more of a more vibrant, kind of a soft orangey peach instead. So it's just a little bit more intense. Everything's a little bit more golden and more red than I had thought. Obviously, we do have a gold and a red shade in here, but the four shades that look more like neutrals lean a little bit warmer than I was expecting as well. But if you're familiar with the Bobbi Brown Luxe shadows, you might already have some of these shades at home. Overall, I think the shadows are great quality. I think this is a really nice palette if you're interested in the color stories. I love the packaging. It does have magnetic closure, and I think it's just really beautiful, but it's going to give you a more glitzy, glam type of, something with sparkle rather, not necessarily always glam, but you know, definitely something shimmery and sparkly for the most part. Now, the highlighting powder, I applied it two different ways here. So I tried it out just on its own on the cheeks so you could see how intense it is and how much color you get from the actual Incandescent Glow highlighting powder. Then I mixed the Pat McGrath Flirtatious blush, which is a very light, kind of a soft pinky nude kind of blush. I put that on one cheek and used a fan brush to put the highlighter above it. I really like that. And then on top of on the right side where I had already put the highlighter with the Givenchy brush, I ended up, you know, putting a little bit of the Pat McGrath blush on top of that to see how they kind of mix together. I feel like it actually made the blush look more intense. It didn't necessarily look, I mean, you could still see the sparkle and the sheen from the highlighter, but it didn't blend together as cohesively as I was thinking it might. Overall, I don't really like it that way. I think it's just too sparkly for me, but if you are somebody looking for a very sparkly, shimmery highlighter, this might be a good fit for you. Now, I do actually like the highlighter in small doses using a fan brush. I have actually tried it with an angled highlighting brush as well, like the Givenchy detail brush. And for me, that's still a little bit too intense, but a fan brush like the Refer 20 or this Omnia Gold fan brush, those give me just enough. So I think that's kind of the right fit for me. Now, as for the highlighting powder, we have 8 grams in that. So it's definitely a fairly large size highlighter there. And overall, the palette I think is very fairly priced. This is actually a really great price for a face and eye palette. And this packaging on here is stunning. I think it would be a great gift and something great to have if you are looking for something with these particular colors and shimmers. Now let's take a look at these Luxe lipsticks. And we're gonna look at the lip swatches first, then we'll go over to the arm swatches. And the Luxe lipsticks, these are going to be made in Italy and they're 3.5 grams each. They retail for $40 US. So there is a little bit of a price increase from the previous version. And the packaging on this is slightly different. I'll show you that in a minute. I have to say though, the swatches, the color representation online is vastly different, in my opinion, than what they look like in real life. Some of these shades I was very excited to try, but they were very different. For example, number 309, Pale Mauve. I was really looking forward to that shade. It reminded me of Tom Ford Sugar Glider in the online swatches, but it's much milkier, much more pale than I was anticipating. Overall, I would say that the colors skew warmer than I was expecting. And I think they're a really nice cream lipstick. So a lot of lipsticks nowadays, when you see them on the market in like a satin finish or something, you're going to have, you know, a lightweight lipstick, and perhaps you might even have some of that like lip balm lipstick hybrids where you've got a little bit more of like a clear translucency to the lipstick. That's not going to be the case with these. These are more like a traditional cream, but they are a lighter weight, a little bit of a softer texture than a traditional old-fashioned cream lipstick. But they're going to have that opacity, and they do have a satin sheen on your lips. So I think they are really nice. They wear very well, and you know, it's kind of like just a newer version of an old classic. All right, so let's take a look at the packaging on these lipsticks. You can see that we do have a black stripe. One has Bobbi Brown on it, the one on the back does not. It's going to be your gold packaging with the logo on the top. It's sort of like an uneven hexagon, and it does have clip closure. So you can see you've got the little grooves for it to come in. And when this was new, you could have the logo. The logo was imprinted on there. You can see it's also on this portion of the bullet as well. So let's go ahead and swatch these. We're starting off with 306 Italian Rose. And let me just take off this, and we're gonna just swatch it right above the eyeshadow swatches here. So this is 306 Italian Rose. And you can see how opaque these are with one swipe. You can see building it up does not really change the pigmentation level drastically. Next, we have 308 Pink Nude. And again, this is one that to me was a lot warmer than I was thinking it was gonna be. And we'll go over a few color descriptions right here at the end. Let's just swatch these first. We have 309 Pale Mauve. And that's gonna be, you know, definitely more of a milky shade. And 312 Pink Buff. This is a classic. I think I had this in the old formula. Not sure where it is now. I might not have it anymore. But then we have 337 Bahama Brown. This is my favorite. I'm actually going to put this one right here at the top because we're running out of space. This is the one I have on my lips as well. So let's just talk a little bit about these colors. So looking at these, I want you to see the undertones for all of these. All of these undertones here, it's kind of like the base color that they're using to mix in the colors is more of like a peachy cream kind of shade, because there's definitely a warm undertone to all of these shades. Even 309 Pale Mauve, which is this, you know, kind of this milky pink, still has a little bit of warmth to it. So starting off with 306 Italian Rose, this is one of my favorites. It's not quite a terracotta shade, but it's like red with a little bit of terracotta, a soft red. So it's a really beautiful shade. Then moving on to 308 Pink Nude. This is really going to be more of, in my opinion, more of a peachy nude. It runs much more peach on me than pink. It's more of that like salmon pink that has like a little bit of that orange in there, and there's a little bit of brown, but really it's more orange than pink in my opinion. And then moving on to 309 Pale Mauve. This I actually don't think is that mauve. I don't really see any purple or plum in there. Mauve typically means like more of a mix of, you know, pink and some purple tones and so forth. And to me, this is more of a straight up baby pink. But again, you've got those warmer undertones. So instead of being a cool tone baby pink, it's a warmer tone baby pink. And then we have this one here is 312 Pink Buff. And I don't have my previous shade anymore, but I feel like it runs warmer than the previous Pink Buff, but it might be in my head. I feel like though that it's a little bit warmer than the one I used to have, because that was a shade I really loved. I still like this one, but it's definitely warmer. It's more of your medium pink. It's very similar to Italian Rose, but lighter. It has a little bit more pink versus the red in Italian Rose, and it's a little bit softer. Bahama Brown, 337. This one actually has a little bit of purple in it. So there's a little bit of mauve in here, but this is going to be brown with a little bit of pink and a tiny bit of purpley mauve in there. And this would be my favorite. It's also the coolest in tone of the ones that I picked up. So we're not going to do a ton of lipstick comparisons, but I did want to look at a few Tom Ford shades because I feel like some of them are pretty similar. This is 66 Paper Doll. I'm just going to put this right down here at the bottom. So that's Paper Doll, and you can see this is going to be cooler in tone, but it is fairly similar to the 309 Pale Mauve. And then we also have 13 Blush Nude. And let's put that, we'll put that right next to it. And so that's Blush Nude right there. You can see this is going to be a little bit warmer, but it's still going to be softer, not quite as warm as the shades in here. But you can see that the kind of like the milkiness of these is similar. However, the Tom Ford have more translucency in the base than the Bobbi Brown, which are more opaque from the get-go. And this one here is Tom Ford Pink Charade. Just put that, let's see, right there. Let's move that somewhere else. Here is Pink Charade. And you can see that, again, the tones of this, in general, the Tom Ford ones just have cooler tones than the Bobbi Brown. And the last one I wanted to look at is my favorite Tom Ford shade. This is Sugar Glider. I'm just going to put this right here. It's this L shape right here by 337 Bahama Brown. You can see that it is kind of similar to Sugar Glider. Sugar Glider is a little bit cooler, has a little bit more purple in it, but they do have some similar tones to them. Bahama Brown is definitely going to have more red in it and a little bit more brown in it as well. But those are, I think, some kind of good comparisons for those. Now, as for the eyeshadows here, I wanted to compare this with a few things. This is the Chanel Tweed in Tweed Fauve, number 3. So we're going to take a look at this one here. And this is the color story. We're just going to put this right down here, just so you can kind of see how similar the color story is. The Bobbi Brown colors are softer, but you can see that in general, you do have kind of that same vibe. So if you are really interested in the Tweed Fauve, but you want something with a less expensive price tag, this palette might be a good option. Another one, this is the Disco palette from Byredo. So we're gonna swatch these. These are the first 3 shades. Just put this right down here. You can see how richly metallic these are. And they have a different formula. They're very, very creamy, and you know, they just, in my opinion, they're kind of unique in their formulation. So you can see that you've got some deeper browns, some more neutrals in here, but yeah, this is going to be like a coppery version of the Bobbi Brown. Tom Ford Desert Fox. These are mattes. We do have this one golden shade here, which is more metallic. We're just going to put this one going right down the side here. These Tom Ford shades are kind of a little bit dustier, a little bit earthier than the Bobbi Brown. And last up, I wanted to take a look at 889 from Dior Reflexion. This is one of the fall palettes. We're going to just take a look at this. The color story is not exactly the same or anything, but I do feel like the look is similar on the eyes. You know, for like, you can create a similar look on the eyes with these. However, the Dior palette has more red in it. So here's Reflexion from Dior versus the Bobbi Brown, which definitely has more like golden tones, a little bit more orange in there. But you do have these neutral shades in there, I feel like really can be pretty similar. And when you mix them with the oranges or the reds, respectively, you know, those can really create a very similar look. And I'm sorry to say, I don't have anything quite like this Bobbi Brown highlighter. To say, I do really like the duochrome effect on there. I think it looks really nice on the skin. For me, I like it with a light hand. But just know that it's definitely more glitter, more sparkle than you might expect from a highlighter. So overall, my thoughts on these products, I think everything is very well done. So these are probably not going to be favorite items in my collection, but they are things that I will enjoy. I think this palette is my favorite parts of packaging, to be honest. Really love the packaging. I really do like these Luxe formulas. They're my favorite formulas from Bobbi Brown. I think the lipsticks are very nice. I just tend to prefer more sheer lipsticks for the most part, unless I'm going for like a deep red or something. So, you know, I think the lipsticks are a great formula, but again, I am a little disappointed with how the colors are portrayed online. Hopefully that's something that'll change with time. but it is a really nice formula and definitely worth trying. So overall, I'm happy with my purchases. I do, wish maybe I had gotten a few different shades of the lipstick instead of the ones I did get. But in the end, the products themselves are very good. So if you've tried any of these, please let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'll see you very soon. So thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day.